What if your bank balance had almost nothing to do with your salary and almost everything to do with what's sitting in your closet right now? Stay with that question for a second, because by the end of this video, you're going to look around your own home differently, and you might not love what you see. Picture two co-workers at the same mid-sized marketing firm. Same office, same city, same general income range. We'll call them Dean and Eric. Walk into Dean's apartment and you feel it the moment the door opens, a kind of heaviness that comes from too much of everything sitting in one place. A television so wide it turns the living room into a shrine for itself. A leather sectional that cost more than a month of his take-home pay. Countertops buried under gadgets still wrapped in plastic, bought with full intention and used exactly 0 times. His closet doesn't close all the way anymore. Clothes spill out with tags still attached, waiting for an occasion that keeps not arriving. The guest room stopped being a guest room 2 years ago. It's a storage unit now, a quiet museum of things he meant to use. Dean earns $98,000 a year and checks his account balance the way you'd check a bruise, carefully, half hoping it doesn't hurt as much as last time. 2 missed paychecks and the whole structure comes down. Walk into Eric's apartment and something in your chest actually loosens. There's air in the room, a couch sized for the space instead of dominating it. A screen that plays what he wants without insisting on being the main character of the apartment. A kitchen where every tool earns its spot on the counter. A closet he can see the back of because everything hanging in it is something he's actually worn this month. The guest room is, shockingly, a guest room. Eric earns $51,000 a year and he opens his banking app the way you'd glance at something you're quietly proud of. 16 months of expenses sitting in savings. 22% of every check moving automatically toward his future before he ever sees it land. He earns roughly half of what Dean earns and has built nearly 10 times the security. Same city, same rent range, completely different relationship with money. Most people see this gap and reach for the laziest explanation available. They assume it's discipline or sacrifice or some rare gift for being frugal that Eric has and Dean doesn't. That's not what's happening here. What's actually happening is that Eric learned something Dean never did. Every single object you bring into your life charges you twice. The first charge shows up on the receipt. The second charge keeps showing up, quietly, month after month, year after year, spread across so many small, invisible lines that almost nobody ever adds them up. Storage space in your own home is not free, even though it feels free because no bill ever arrives labeled rent for your junk. Researchers estimate that urban living space runs somewhere between $28 and $48 per square foot every year. That stationary bike taking up 18 square feet of your bedroom while it slowly transforms into a coat rack is quietly billing you close to $900 a year just for the floor space it occupies before you've burned a single calorie on it. Or take the camper van sitting in the driveway with its winter storage fees, registration, insurance, and the maintenance it demands whether you ever drive it or not. Something like that runs roughly 10% of its value annually just to exist in your life. A $32,000 camper costs you around $3,200 a year before a single mile gets put on it. Then there's the cost nobody writes into a spreadsheet, the mental one. Every object you own takes a small bite out of your attention. It has to be cleaned, organized, maintained, insured, worried about, eventually dealt with. Researchers studying visual clutter have found it measurably raises cortisol and shrinks the brain's ability to focus, which means your possessions are stressing you out at a biological level and you never even clocked it happening. Underneath all of that sits the quietest thief of all, opportunity cost. $16,000 tied up in a home gym you use 3 times a year could have been $16,000 in an index fund, compounding toward $55,000 or more over the next 15 years. You didn't just buy equipment. You bought equipment instead of options, instead of flexibility, instead of choices down the road you'll never even realize you gave up. Here's the tool that cuts through almost every purchase decision you'll ever face. Before you buy anything, ask how many times you'll genuinely use it. Then divide the price by that number. That's your real cost, the cost per use. And it's the only honest measuring stick that exists. A $180 jacket worn twice costs $90 per wear. A $450 jacket worn 225 times costs $2 per wear. The expensive jacket is, in every meaningful sense, the cheaper one. A $280 kitchen gadget pulled out twice a year runs you $140 every time it sees daylight. A $25 tool used weekly costs less than $1 per use by the time the year wraps up. Run this math before any purchase, large or small, and most impulse buys quietly disqualify themselves before you've even opened your wallet. It also reveals real value when real value exists. A $2,200 mattress used every single night for a decade costs you around 60 cents per use, for something shaping your health and your focus every single day you're alive. The math doesn't care about marketing or mood or what your group chat thinks looks impressive. It just tells you the truth. Now try something a little less comfortable. Walk through your own place and ask, honestly, for every object you pass, if this disappeared tonight, would you actually go buy it again? Not could you afford to, would you choose to? Would you really repurchase that fondue set? Would you replace the bread maker that's been holding mail since some year you can barely remember? Would you go out and re-buy the clothes that haven't touched your skin in 18 months? For most things in most homes, the honest answer is no. These objects are still around through inertia, not intention. Leftovers from impulse buys, obligation gifts, or a version of you that quietly moved on without telling them. They've gone negative, costing you space and attention while handing back nothing in return. Every minute spent organizing around them, dusting near them, thinking about them, is a minute pulled away from something that actually matters to you. There's a particular pattern among people who earn solid money and still accumulate nothing, and it's so socially normal that it doesn't even register as a problem until you run the numbers. They upgrade things that already work fine. The television performs perfectly, but the new model has a marginally crisper picture. The phone handles everything they throw at it, but the camera got slightly better in ways only a professional would even notice. The car starts every morning and gets them where they need to go, but this year's version has a different front grille. None of that is failure, it just feels like progress because it's wrapped in shiny packaging. The average person replaces a phone every 2 to 3 years, while the old one still works fine. And across 30 years, that single habit alone eats somewhere between $32,000 and $52,000. Apply that same pattern across every category where upgrade culture quietly operates, and you're looking at well over $210,000 in unnecessary spending across a lifetime. The fix is almost laughably simple. Replace things when they break, not when something shinier shows up. Boredom is not failure. A newer model existing somewhere is not failure. Wanting novelty is human and totally normal. It's just not a reason to spend. Genuine inability to do the job it's meant for, that's failure. Everything else is a marketing department successfully convincing you to solve a problem you never actually had. So here's a real question for you, and I'd genuinely like to know the answer. What's one thing sitting in your home right now that you know, deep down, you'd never buy again if it disappeared tonight? Drop it in the comments. You might be surprised how many other people relate to exactly the thing you're about to type. Every major purchase drags an entire ecosystem of smaller purchases behind it, and almost nobody accounts for that while they're standing in the showroom feeling excited. A camper van needs a hitch, a vehicle strong enough to tow it, a place to park it, maintenance supplies, safety gear, and the right clothing for actually using it. The sticker price is just the entry fee into an ongoing expense system that keeps running long after the sale. A backyard pool needs chemicals, cleaning gear, furniture to justify having it, and usually landscaping to make the whole thing look intentional. A home gym needs flooring that can handle the weight, mirrors, storage solutions, and often some kind of renovation just to make the room functional in the first place. Before any major purchase, calculate the full ecosystem, not just the price tag in front of you. What does owning this require me to also buy and maintain? That single question turns a lot of reasonable purchases into something obviously excessive once you actually total it up. And the reverse holds just as true. Getting rid of one major possession often deletes an entire category of related expenses in a single move. Before you commit to owning anything with uncertain staying power, rent it or borrow it first, and find out if the interest is real before you pay the price of permanent ownership. Curious about camping? Rent the gear for 2 trips before you buy a single tent stake. Thinking about getting into woodworking? Borrow tools or find a community workshop before your garage fills up with table saws. The excitement that drives a purchase is not always the excitement that survives actual contact with reality. Garages around the world are full of expensive proof of this. Ski gear from the one weekend that turned out to be the whole season. Camera equipment from the photography phase that lasted 3 months. Instruments from the band that broke up after 2 shows. Testing something before buying it means you get to discover you don't actually want it while it can still sit on someone else's shelf instead of yours. Willpower is the wrong tool for fixing how you spend, and leaning on it is exactly why most people miss every financial goal they set for themselves. Willpower is a resource, and resources run out. By evening, when you're tired and stressed and your phone is showing you things you didn't know you wanted 10 minutes ago, willpower is basically gone for the day. Your environment, on the other hand, never gets tired. It doesn't have bad days. So redesign it once and let it do the work for you. Delete saved card numbers from shopping sites. Remove the apps. Unsubscribe from every promotional email clogging your inbox. Put a 24-hour pause on anything that wasn't planned ahead of time. These structural moves do more heavy lifting than any amount of motivation ever could, because they keep working even on the days you don't feel strong. That 24-hour pause alone wipes out roughly 68% of impulse purchases. Not because you suddenly developed iron discipline, but because most cravings for stuff simply evaporate on their own within a day if you don't act on them right away. On the saving side, make the smart choice automatic. Set transfers to your investment account for payday before the money ever lands somewhere you can talk yourself out of saving it. Treat your savings rate like rent, a fixed line item with 0 room for negotiation. Try one more exercise, and it sounds almost too simple to matter until you actually do it. Pick a category, clothing, kitchen tools, books, whatever you want, and count exactly how many you own. People consistently guess low, then discover they own 3 or 4 times what they expected. Just the act of counting changes something in how you see it. Once you know you own 52 shirts, buying a 53rd one stops being something you drift into and becomes something you have to consciously choose to do. People who actually manage to keep their stuff under control set hard limits for the categories they care about and enforce a strict one-in, one-out rule. Any new item means something existing has to leave. That small bit of friction slows accumulation dramatically because it turns every purchase into a deliberate decision instead of something that just happens to you. The trap that catches high earners more than any other is having no finish line. They never define what enough actually looks like, so they keep buying more without ever arriving anywhere worth arriving at. Income climbs, lifestyle expands to swallow it whole. The new lifestyle becomes the new normal, and another raise gets required just to feel any movement at all. Someone earning $320,000 a year reports the exact same financial anxiety as someone earning $85,000, because their spending expanded at precisely the same rate their income did. Decide ahead of time what kind of home is genuinely enough for you. What kind of car actually covers your real needs? What level of stuff gives you real satisfaction instead of a momentary hit of novelty? Then build your income toward that fixed target instead of letting the target chase your income forever. Once your earnings pass that defined line, the extra has nowhere left to go except savings and investment. Someone who decided $62,000 a year covers their real life and then grew their income to $155,000 is now saving $93,000 a year without trying particularly hard. Someone earning the exact same amount but constantly redefining enough upward might be saving almost nothing at all. Measure your financial position by what you're free to choose, not by what you own. Can you walk away from a job that's wrecking your health? Can you take 6 months off income to handle a family emergency without it becoming a financial crisis on top of an emotional one? Can you move for a relationship or an opportunity without your bank account making that decision for you? Can you start something risky without a guaranteed paycheck waiting on the other side? Can you say no to lucrative work that asks you to compromise something you actually care about? These choices are the real currency of a financial life, and they only exist for people who've built distance between what they earn and what they spend. Someone earning $210,000 and spending $204,000 has almost no real choices available to them. They're locked to their paycheck, the same as anyone living check to check, just at a higher altitude. Someone earning $82,000 and spending $46,000 has an enormous amount of room to maneuver. Money that never gets spent on stuff doesn't vanish. It converts directly into the ability to live life on your own terms. One last thing worth understanding about how this whole system actually moves over time. The relationship between owning less and feeling financially secure runs in both directions at once. Owning less hands you more money, but having more money also makes owning less feel completely natural and effortless. When your savings are solid and your investments are quietly growing in the background, the psychological pressure that drives most spending starts to dissolve on its own. People spend compulsively, more often than they'd ever admit, to temporarily numb the anxiety that financial insecurity creates in the first place. Fix the insecurity through real financial strength, and a lot of the compulsion just leaves with it. Spending less builds security. Security lowers the emotional pull toward spending. Lower spending speeds up the building of even more security. Each turn of that cycle reinforces the next one, and after enough turns, the whole thing carries itself forward without much effort at all. Go back to Dean and Eric for a second. Same income range, same neighborhood, same rent, completely different lives. Eric's apartment, the one with the space and the calm and the guest room that's actually a guest room, doesn't belong to someone with an extraordinary salary. It belongs to someone who got clear, earlier than most people ever do, about what actually makes a life feel like enough. If this shifted how you're going to look at your own closet tonight, hit subscribe so the next one finds you. Drop a like if you made it this far, and send this to the one friend who definitely needs to hear it.